campers, we've done it. We've finally completed the Booker Boy Book Club. That's it. We've done it. We've read every single one. All 13. Okay, technically, I read The Mirror of the Light like before all this came up. But I've read all 13. We've done it. Colin McCann, the last one, the most controversial one. Now, before we get into this, please know I have done a full video talking about the sexual allegations and the other controversies surrounding this book. It's 40 minutes long, but it's going to cover everything. So I'm going to link that down below, and I recommend you watch that first before listening to the review, because I'm not going to repeat myself in this review because I've spoken about it for 40 minutes. Please note, this is a review about the book. I'm not going to talk about anything else. I'm not going to talk about Colin McCann. It's all in that video. Like, watch that, comment on that if you want to talk about the books, the sexual allegations. That's what that video is for. This one is purely about the book, like my personal experience with this book. I recommend it. Actually, let's start off there. Is this a good book? Yes, 100%. Yes, I completely understand why this book divided so many people, because, like, if you haven't read it and you hear about the allegations and the other controversies, you'd understand why people didn't want it to make the long list, or that it shouldn't have been shortlisted. But those who have read it completely understand why, like, why people love this book. Now, again, as I said in my other video, I kind of went into this book knowing all of the controversies and everything that was coming out, and heard a lot of people's opinions, and people who didn't want to read it, some people who don't want to buy the book. But I did have to buy it because my library just couldn't obtain me a copy. And I will say, this book is incredible. Like, if you're just interested about the score, you're not actually bothered about this book, it's an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10. It's really good. Like, this book is like standout. And easily one of the better books on the long list. Like, I get why people were so, like, split down the middle about this book. I completely get it. Yeah, but for me, it's an 8 out of 10. With the drag a little bit towards the end. Like, if that's all you're here for, that's what you have to know. So what is a paragon about? A paragon is Colin McCann writing the story of Rami and Bassam. But it's not really writing the story, and he's not really retelling. There's a blur to all of this. But again, no, Rami and Bassam have applauded this novel. Like, they've applauded it and have no faults with it at all. And truly what Colin McCann has done has completely embodied a act of grieving in this crystalline, like, expression. And not by crystalline is he like cementing it, not that he's like holding it in place, but really how the action like refracts completely into all these different aspects that at times feel really redundant, reductive, like they're not linked in any way, shape, or form. But really, and what I feel Colin McCann does, like, phenomenally, is he's able to take this event and show how this event isn't about these two people. It's about all these external factors that have caused the conflicts between Palestine and Israel. Just put them in like a pressure cooker. Yeah, we will talk about the migratory pattern of birds. We're going to talk about tightroping. We're going to go back in time to French prime ministers and a very bizarre culinary tradition. Some of it feels a bit weird. There are court cases. We have flashback for Rami and Bassam's life. We have them moving in the present. We have their speeches laid out for us. We have the city of Jericho and Jerusalem. All feels alive in the cascade of events. It's dizzying. It is completely and utterly dizzying. And I would say for the first 50 pages, you have to really adjust yourself to why things are going on in the way they are. But when that gun is shot, when the rubber bullet makes contact, everything stops. All that is wild seems to become tame. There's this element that we're trying to escape the moment that's going on, and Abia's face hitting the concrete as her skull shatters from a lone bullet outside her school. We're drawn more to it, and the further that we run, the more that we look for the beauty in this city. Time becomes meaningless as we find Smadar blown to pieces by a suicide bomber. And we see people try to justify, we try to see people rationalize these chaotic moments, so much so that there's a piece in the book where they say that we shouldn't call them suicide bombers, we should call them homicide bombers, because that makes the scene all the more understandable in a sense. And this book, it's frayed. It's frayed, but we know the string that keeps all the pieces together. That is Rami and Bassam. And that frayed pattern doesn't help that the fact that this is a 1001 chapter novel. And that does feel intimidated at times when you see that some of the chapters are only like a few lines, some of them a few sentences, some of them a few words. This propulsion that you have throughout the story never seems to give up, and we always cycle back to the moment of a beer and Smadar. We always go back to the grief. We always go back to the moment where two men's world erupts. It just erupts in front of them and breaks them down to the core. One thing I have to applaud is that this book is not like trying to be smart. It's not trying to like outwit you in any way, shape, or form. And the reasonings for why things happen, Colin McCann actually explains. So with the 1001 chapters, he's harking back to 1001 Arabian Nights, where how do I say this name? Because I can never say it. The phonetic's not really helping here. Shezheradza, but she's a major female character in 1001 Nights, and her life is spared by the king because she keeps telling the story, and he says that he will kill her the next day, but her story continues on for 1001 nights, and therefore her life is spared. And Rabi and Bassam, their message is repetition. They keep saying the same things over and over and over again in order to get their message out. In a way, they keep Abir and Smadar alive with them. If they stop, if they were to let their daughters die, they would be gone. They would mean nothing to the world. But their story means that they continue on. And that's how Rabi and Bassam are able to deal with this grief. They want to spread this message. If they were to stop, no one would have known. They would just be a number. They would just be maybe not even a number. They would just be a happenstance to a circumstance. Like I cried twice. I'm happy to say I cried twice in this book. And the beauty of it was is that the bits that I cried of didn't even have words. It was the it's like the perfect implementation of the two daughters photos, and you read about them and they feel like characters, and then you're just hit with their photos of their faces, and it was at that point everything like clicked with me, and I was like, oh no, this is real. As much as you could read non-fiction, as much as you could read like memoirs, there is this element of like distance, but to see their faces, these like young girls, and you see like the life in their eyes and know that like they do not continue anymore because of the conflict going on in Palestine and Israel is heart wrenching. It's just it's simple. I think this is what this book does. It does simple really well. There's no beautiful imagery, like description are very much kept to a minimum in some places. Most are just facts. Like this is just is what it is. And this is why Colin McCann calls this like a hybrid. It kind of fits between these notions of what fiction should do and what non-fiction should do. It becomes this this real perfect blend, this real perfect blend, but at the detriment of it being simple, especially I felt towards the end, the latter part, as we follow Bassam a bit more in regards to the court. I I not that I lost interest, not that I lost interest, but I felt a a slowing down in the pace. The writer's style, you are either going to love it or hate it. It's sparse yet dense. It's minimal but says everything. But because it's over 1,001 chapters, obviously some of them are going to be stronger than others. And you have to weigh that up at times. But honestly, Colin McCann's A Paragon is spectacular. Fault the author as much as you want. It's spectacular. And what's been spectacular is this that we've finally done the Booker Boy book club, but we gotta wait a year. We gotta wait a year for the next 13 books to come out. Um Again, thank you so much for this. It's been like a really like lovely journey, and to see so many people like reading the book and giving it a go, because I know like a lot of people haven't heard of the Booker at all, or haven't read anything from it, and seeing people like really engaged is it's been spectacular. We'll have to think of something else to fill this void until next year. And obviously, we will have the the announcements to be made. We have a few specials on that coming up with some live streams. So don't think this is gonna go, because I'm ready for this. It's gonna be great. But thank you oh so much for following me on this journey. It's been emotional. It's been emotional. Bye.